gentlemen, we're calling the December 12th, 2017 Village of Ossining Zoning Board of Appeals public hearing to order. I ask that you turn off your cell phones. For those in the audience, please do not engage in activities that will distract the board or the applicants or their respective representatives. Please do not engage in loud or extended conversations during the proceeding. Any conversations by audience members should be conducted outside of the hearing room. At the end of the application's presentation, the public will be given the opportunity to speak on relative issues involving that application. Okay, so again, I apologize that we're starting late. There is a tremendous amount of traffic out there. So we're going to, we are a 3-member board tonight. Should you, if your application is up and you want it to be extended to the entire board, we can adjourn you to the next meeting if you choose. But let's start and see where we go. Okay, ZBA 2116, the planning board is the lead agency and it's adjourned. Is there anybody here for Croton Avenue, ZBA 2116? Not seeing anybody? Okay. ZBA 2117, 51 Callum Avenue. There's a little switch. Oh, and I apologize, I should have had mine.
I don't know if they're working.
They are working now. A little button. Yeah, there you go.
I got it. Hello? I'm not gonna speak. Good evening, everyone. My name is Daniel Diaz, and I'm representing Mr. Alvarez and Mr. Carpio. They were the owners of 51 Callum Ave. Since we started the legalization process, they already sold the property, and there is already a person living at the house. I was here, I believe it was 2 times already. This is my 3rd time up. The last, and I just want to just bring everybody up to speed. We're here for a variance on an existing deck that was obviously existing before Mr. Alvarez purchased the property. And we also came to some situations with the existing property. Existing lot actually is a pie-shaped lot that is not very, we call it, it's not as every other lot. It's very atypical. It's an atypical lot with a pie shape. So therefore, we are having some issues that we have to basically provide, seeking variances for not only the deck, but I'd like to start with one of the variances, is the front yard variance of 15 feet that is required. Oh, here we are. The other variance is one of the side yards for the existing house is a 22.6 variance. And I just want to mention the way we approached that was taking the width of the property, which is 152 feet, and did a 40, I believe it was 40% of that for both yards, came up to actually a variance of 51 feet, and the 1 yard variance for the house was 22.6, so on. The rear yard is another issue. The rear yard is required to have a 30-foot setback. We don't have a rear yard because of the type of lot that we encountered, or that we have existing. Everybody remember, I don't know if everybody has that lot in front of them. So therefore, basically, it goes like, right? So that's, we're looking at the rear yard being basically right here. Because the intersection of the 2 side yards doesn't give me a rear yard, correct? The last thing I really want to say is that, well, my client, all he did was redid the railings and the floor decking of the existing deck. that's all that was actually done. By the last, one of the final inspections that were done in the house to look at previous, other things that he had building permits for, including the legalization of the deck, the building department found that there was a variance required, so that's, you know, basically in a nutshell why we're here. So we're here to actually try to get variances for the 15-foot front yard, 22.6 on the one of the yards for the house, 21.56 feet is the deck, and so on.
So this clears up all your variances that would, you know,
That's-
that you need for this
For
particular,
the
particular property
non-conforming
parcel.
parcel and for the legally existing house. It's been there since, I believe it was 1960s or 70s.
Okay. All right, that's it. Is there anybody here that's to speak on 51 Callum?
Nothing to do with
And he understands that if there's a vote tonight, you need all three votes.
Right, you do understand that.
Well, I mean, I do understand that. I don't know if yes, I do. That would
And
be
you
the
have
majority.
settled anything with the survey with the neighbor who had a question on the survey, right?
They've never approached us
They never
at
approached you.
all, at all.
But you have a survey, yeah, those.
Of course, yes, that was one of the requirements from the building department from day one. to have a
Okay,
survey.
all right. Thank
Any
you.
questions? Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, ZBA 2217 Victoria Home, 25 North Malcolm, has asked to be adjourned till till January meeting. Okay. ZBA 2317 Ford Ward Place.
Elizabeth, you need me to go off with you or not? Sure, come on. I have these pictures of houses in the neighborhood that I hope you want to.
You love porches.
What? You love porches? Me too. Yeah. Oh, thanks.
You want the revised worksheet up first?
Please.
All right. Okay, I don't know how to move from there, but, okay, so we've been here before. You might recall, I'm Elizabeth DeSalvo, the architect.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, and would you,
Yeah,
you will tell everything in lieu, what's the line, Mr.
I won't go on.
You promise to tell the truth
The whole truth.
under penalties of perjury?
Trying to get my act together, thank you.
Elizabeth DeSalvo, architect, representing Emily Sack and Bob Schloss, who own 4 Ward Place. 4 Ward Place is a dilapidated home from the 1920s that needs a lot of love and care, and they're hoping to add on to it, fix it up, and move in. The whole plan for the house is to make it super energy efficient and very earth friendly. So in that effort, we're doing some stuff to the lot also, which is reflected here. So what we're asking for are variances for the lot size and width, which are undersized right now. In the front yard, we're asking for a 3-foot tree variance in order to put a front porch on the house because we think that'll add a lot to the house and conform with the neighborhood. Right now, the house is set back, like its neighbor houses are set a little forward, so it would keep the street line pretty consistent. The side yards are already super tight, as you can see. We're asking for variances there, not only, well, we're basically keeping the new parts of the house in line with the existing house. We're asking for a variance of 3 inches more on the sides of the house so we can add extra insulation. This house is gonna be passive house, if you know what that means. It means super duper energy efficient. So we wanna wrap the house in some insulation. So we are asking for a little more. Where that'll be seen is right here and right here, which are already tight.
So you included your 3 inches in your new
Yes.
variance request?
Yeah, they're in there. The rear yard is not a problem for the house, but for the garage, that's the other portion. The garage, there's an existing garage foundation that's back here. We're asking to put the garage on that same line, because the driveway is already there and lines up with it. So that would be a 1'9" on the side instead of 5 foot. In the back, we'll push it up so there's a good 5 foot in the back. And then as far as impervious coverage, we're actually lowering that by doing two things. One is we're making the driveway and all the walkways permeable pavers. I used a 66% impervious amount, so that a third basically pervious, 2/3 impervious. That is after researching a lot of these products. You could get as low as 50/50 easily, but I was a little conservative for you because we don't know exactly what product we're going to use yet. The building coverage is over by 4%, as you can see, and that is mostly this back addition portion, which has a green roof on top, which accounts for a lot of the impervious surface going away. So we have a new porch here, existing house here, new one-story structure here with grass roof on top. We'll also have rain barrels and vegetables and all pervious pavers for walkways and driveway.
And this brings you up to code on everything, so
Yes.
so you don't have any issues for the future, which you understand, that's what you
Correct,
realize. Is there anyone here that is here to speak on Ward Place?
I believe that several of our neighbors have
Oh, that's
written
true.
letters
Yes.
to, we've shown them.
Having had an abandoned house across the street from me too, I totally get what they're talking about. Which is now no longer abandoned. Good, good. Great. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
2617, sorry, I should be speaking into the mic. 2617, which is 5 Tompkins Avenue. This is a new application. Hi, Susan, do you want to introduce yourself? Is the mic on? Having trouble with these tonight. There's a little button on the side, I think they're turning off. The green light? Yeah, there you go.
I'm Susan Reardon, the architect, and this is the owner.
Do you promise to tell the truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes. Okay, let me get started. Right now, we have a
You're gonna have to talk much more into that mic.
right now we have a very small,
Can you hear her, Catherine? Can you hear her?
currently in T-zone, you're supposed to have 7,500. We only have 2,968. So it's a very small site, and which is very typical of a lot of properties on that block. And here, I just want to pass this out. This is just showing that property. As you can see in the neighborhood, most of the properties are anywhere from 28 to 30 to 27 feet wide, which is much less than it is normally in a T-zone. So what we're looking at, they put a shed in the backyard, and accessory structures are supposed to be 5 feet away from the property line. But considering that the property is only 29 feet wide, that really puts it closer to the middle. Right now, it's 1 foot from the rear property line and 2.5 feet from the side property line. So we're looking for a variance of, well, basically 4 feet for the smallest. but we're also looking for variance for the existing house, to legalize. Since the house was built 132 years ago, it's actually built very close to the property line. So we have one side yard should be 12, but it's 1.78 feet. Both side yards should be 28, but they're 9.919 feet. The front yard should be 30, but it's 14.55. Yeah, there you go. So as you can see, it's a very old house and an old piece of property. So we need a lot of variances just as is. Adding a shed is just a place for them to store all their yard work and stuff, so. The only problem is that it's 1 foot from the rear property line and 2.5 feet from the side property line, where it should be 5. So we're asking for that variance.
So why does the shed have to be so big?
It is not big,
It's not big,
it's
it's
a
10 by 8.
10 by 8. It is,
It's 80 square feet.
it's very small actually, and I have a lot of
Well,
things.
since your property is very small too, that's
It's
what I'm
very
asking.
small.
I mean, you know that we got, somebody asked us why the
Yes.
shed had to be so
And
big.
actually, I knew the dimensions of the shed specified for the building, but I didn't know the 5 feet distance, between property lines. And actually, the shed is built, it's 30 inches, I built it myself, so I can't pay for people to build my shed. And I built it, was 30 inches away from property lines. And I never have a problem with my neighbors or something like that. I just, want to put stuff away out of my little patio that I have. That's where we have the parties, and in the left side, we have a little paddock block they are existing. We usually put a barbecue or whatever we have to do there. Share when we invite people to our house.
And between that, they're gardens all the way through, up to this point.
As you can see, I took pictures of the other properties around me. I can't go to my neighbors and ask me. This is my neighbors. Look at the fence line. Look at the shed. This is one of them. This is the
Is that a
other
shed
one.
or is that a garage?
This is a garage. Sorry.
That's all right.
And this was a garage that burned out also. They reconstructed in the same place that it was located.
But it's a garage, sir.
Yes, it's,
Yeah,
it's a difference.
yeah. It's-
This is actually the back of the building. This is the location of my shed right here. It's used 30 inches, and I never intended to do this. Actually, I just want to build a shed to put the stuff away,
Right,
and unfortunately, I get into this trouble. But it wasn't never my intention to violate the law for
nope, no, it's, yeah.
property.
I think that even though I think we did get one comment saying that your shed is bigger than other sheds, not garages, sheds. And I think part of the reason is that your lots are small. So just because the village says you can build a shed, it shouldn't, that I think is where the problem was arising. So we did have someone that couldn't be here tonight.
Yes, actually, I got the complaint. That was
Oh, good.
Mrs. Gresher. She lived in the left side of the property. She lived in this property, this side of the
Okay.
property. My neighbor for the other side, I went out and asked her if it wasn't a problem. She said it wasn't any problem. And in the back of my house is the building apartment, so, I don't
It's their
know.
driveways.
I just have one.
Turn it on. There's a button on. I don't know why they're not staying on tonight.
I just have one question. How come we don't have a survey?
We did that,
This
this
is,
is,
I don't have it in my
survey
survey.
of the property.
Okay, I don't have it in the packet, so I'm trying to figure out where the numbers came from.
The numbers, you mean all the variance numbers?
Yeah, well, because.
So
we were-
besides this shed, you're trying to clean up your variances, which, again, we understand a lot of the A lot of the parcels are small around the village, you know, it's not what you would expect of today's, but that's the way the houses were built.
And this house was built in the 1800s, so,
1895.
yeah, so.
Are you going to put a door on it?
Yes, but I can't because the inspector told me don't, I can't
Oh,
put it
okay.
on. I can't, we stop the construction and
Oh.
say, okay.
So what I'm asking is like on this survey, you were saying that the front shows like a setback going to the house and not to the porch. The back doesn't show a setback. Where are we getting these numbers? Because if they're gonna vote to give you a variance, they'd have to do it on the correct numbers done by the surveyor.
I did, new variance and, paid $450, they submitted to the, they don't accept the old variance that we have in,
What this shows here says 1455, but that's to the house, not the porch. This one over here doesn't have a back dimension, but yet she's putting it in, so I
But we
don't.
need 30 feet for the back, and we have more than 30 feet, so we didn't need it.
Right here, look. Right here, it shows 14.55 goes to the house. Should go 14.55, it has to be to the porch. And this one in the back doesn't have a dimension at all. So I don't know if we're just calculating numbers, but we, if the board's gonna grant these variances, we have to have actual surveyed numbers.
we paid for the survey.
This survey doesn't show those.
Is that the new survey, or is that?
Thank you very much, I have a discount. This is the one they got in November, this is the one from November. And this is the sign for November.
So he has to give you this dimension from the porch to the front to get the proper front one. In the back, he has to give us the dimension. That's not on here.
The back is more than 30 feet, so we don't need a variance for the back.
Is there a dimension to the porch on that?
This one doesn't have one, it goes to the house, so he'd have to create one, because that's the variance they'd have to get.
So it looks like some of your numbers just have to be looked at, let's say that, okay?
Yeah.
This worksheet has to be looked at. Also would like you to, you know, talk to your neighbor.
You know what I'm talking. You know her?
No, I don't know her.
I cleaned her
I did
driveway
hear
for-
from her, though.
I cleaned her driver for 5 years. Every year.
Have you lived
it was
in that house for 5 years?
12 years,
12 years.
20 years.
And all you wanted to do was put up a shed, put your stuff in.
Like I say, you know, I cleaned up over front entire, you know, winter time for 5 years, more than 5 years. And, it was never a problem, but when I stopped doing it, it looked like it was trouble, or I don't know what was
I don't wanna get into,
So,
good
I
neighbors.
just
Just can't even say put a fence up, and there's a fence there.
And the fence, it looks like that could be higher. You have a 6.5-foot fence, so you wouldn't be really able to screen it out. How tall is that?
it's, I have no idea.
Oh, no, it's higher than that.
It's about
It's
12,
higher than that fence.
yeah, it's about 12 feet.
Right.
Oh,
The shed.
the shed is,
14 for the height.
let's see, let me think. It is 12 feet, 12 feet and a higher point. I think it's 10 feet and a higher point and 8 feet in this high.
So you couldn't screen it with a fence of any type of stockade.
Right, but the max height is 15 feet anyway, so.
I think you put it on your, it's on your worksheet, you put 15 was requirement and existing 14.
For other, in your other
On the
category?
bottom, last one.
So what are you telling, Joe, are you saying that they have to revise their worksheet? Because you know you're.
Yeah, because at least for the ones, I mean, the numbers of the front is wrong. And while you're at it, I would get I'd get all the dimensions that you're gonna need to make sure they're all right. I mean, the front one for the front porch is obviously, that number's not right.
Okay.
I mean, you can have the survey, if you had one done, just have them come out and add that, give us an updated survey.
I think it's just a question of figuring out how wide that porch is, and then making the number could calculation on the worksheet.
I can do that.
Okay, all right, so we'll see you next month. We need to look at things that are 15, something that could be 15 feet high. Shed, 15 feet high.
Two neighbors right on top of me, both of them, and they're like 14.9, you know, so they went like the absolute grass.
Okay. Okay, moving right along, ZBA 2717, 182 Spring Street. How are you? You, sir, could you give us your name, please?
My name is Lou Saiz, Jr., architect of record.
Okay, and you promise to tell the truth under, promise to tell the truth under penalty of perjury?
Yes, I
Sorry to
do.
shuffle my papers around. Thank
No
you, sir.
problem. I'm here tonight with the owner of 182 Spring Street, Walter Guerrero, and we're here before the board looking for a use variance. 182 Spring Street is in a T zone, which only allows two uses: single family, which is a permitted principal use, and two family, which is a conditional permitted use. The the structure at 182 Spring Street currently has two one-bedroom apartments on the second floor and a vacant first floor. The vacancy used to be occupied by a laundromat, and that's what we're trying to reestablish tonight, is getting that use back on the first floor. There is another possibility, and that's converting the first floor into residential. But to go that route, it'll be very expensive. There'll be extensive structural changes to meet the natural light and ventilation requirements for residential use. And just the fact of adding kitchens, bathrooms, all the rooms required by the property maintenance code to make a dwelling unit, it would cost quite a bit of money to the owner and take quite a few years to recoup that investment. So what we're looking at is really to reestablish the laundromat use in the existing structure, because that would allow us with the fewest changes to the structure. The alleged hardship was not self-created. It was basically the previous owner. He experienced a fire there. Unfortunately, he didn't reestablish the use within the allotted time that the zoning code allows. And at one point, I'm pretty sure he was given permission by the board to reopen, but once again, he was unable to fulfill that requirement or that deadline. The laundromat use had existed for several years at the present location. So in our opinion, it would not create a extensive use or change to the neighborhood because it's already there. The owner is proposing to upgrade the storefront, so the appearance will be upgraded. He's also proposing on making the facility handicap accessible, which it's not currently. So we're going to be putting a ramp to go into the facility, also upgrade the existing restroom to be handicap accessible. The closest laundromat to this neighborhood, or this location, is about a half mile away, so we think this is going to be a great benefit to the immediate neighborhood, and especially at this time of the year when it's cold. And that's basically it. We just hope that you would see your way of granting this use variance and allowing him to reestablish that use.
Just from a strictly legal point of view, use variances are frowned upon in the law, but you are allowed to get them, but there are a number of things that you have to prove. One of them is that you can't realize a reasonable return from any of the permitted uses. In this case, it would be it's a two-family zone, I guess, and it would be either a single-family or a two-family type of residence. You have to show proof by dollars and cents that neither one of those uses would allow you to realize a reasonable return. So it generally involves some financial expert to come in. Sometimes it's a real estate person, but it requires them to give you proof, dollars and cents proof. It makes no sense. I invested this much money in the house. If I were to do a two-family or a single-family, it just wouldn't work. It can be done, but I didn't hear anything tonight. The other thing is in use variance situations, self-created difficulty. Well, if you know that something is, or even if you don't know, you're imputed with knowledge that if something's in a particular district, that you can do certain things with it and that you are not able to do certain things. So if you buy something in a particular zone, knowing that it's zoned for a particular purpose, in general, that's called a self-created difficulty if you want to use it for an unpermitted purpose. So there's a number of things, I think, from a legal standpoint, just strictly legal standpoint, and this board is quasi-legal, that the applicant would have to prove. So it might be a wise thing to adjourn and take a look at those factors and see if you can't create an argument that would supply the board with proof on those issues. And from what I heard, there was perhaps a prior decision in which the laundromat was permitted. You might want to look at that decision and perhaps make the additional argument that although that may have lapsed, the circumstances have not changed dramatically, and therefore the board might look to that as precedent for this decision.
Get that?
Got it.
Thank you, sir. Or anybody else that's here to talk on, to speak on 182 Spring Street? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Nothing on the back of the page? Nothing on the back of the page? Okay, with that, we'll be closing our public hearing of the zoning, Village of Austin Zoning Board of Appeals. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's discuss these topics. Croton Avenue is just adjourned. 51 Callum is the pie-shaped one we've sent back and forth like 3 times. Anybody have any issues with that at this point?
Well, it's a tough lot,
A tough one,
a tough space.
yeah.
I think the big thing last time for you was the configuration. He's got that 152-foot.
Right, it
And
was
it
a
didn't-
calculation thing on
Exactly
the
right.
spreadsheet
Yeah.
last time.
Yeah.
Any issue
No.
with that?
No, I'm all right. I'm all right with it.
All right, I have a motion to approve the zoning variances, and I will clean it up too, for ZBA 2117, 51 Callum Avenue. Do you have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Done. Victoria House, ZBA 2217, 25 North Malcolm Street is adjourned until next week. Excuse me, sir,
I have to get something over there if I have to go. And, can I
Okay,
interrupt one
come
second?
around this way.
I was trying to do it before and I couldn't do it. Thank you.
Victoria Home has been adjourned until next month. The ZBA 2317, 4 Ward Place. They want the variance to construct the front porch and a 1-story addition, plus they have cleaned up all the variances for the home. Right now, it's an empty home, and we don't like zombie houses, so. Does anybody have any issues with that?
No, I agree, I think.
Okay, all right. Motion to grant the variances for ZBA 2317 for Ward Place.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
ZBA 2617 5 Tompkins Avenue, we are going to adjourn that one while they fix, because we have strongly suggested that they fix their zoning worksheet, right? And ZBA 2717 182 Spring Street, that has some work to do on, because that's a use variance, which is much more detailed than just looking for property variances. And thus closes our meeting. So we'd like a motion to accept the minutes of the last meeting. And, do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck. Okay. Okay, so this is our December 2017 meeting, and due to restructuring of the law department of the Village of Ossining, Mark Malone, this will be his last meeting, which we hesitate, especially now that we've just got this big project with this use variance. But we will see what happens in the future. But Mark, it has been our pleasure, and this is a young board, and you have been exceptional helping us, except for George, who is out, not even in this month. This is a very young board, and we appreciate everything that you've done for us. So there's a proclamation here from the Village of Ossining, and there's a lot of whereases, which, I never read the whereases. But whereas the Village of Ossining, the residents of the Village of Ossining have benefited greatly from Mark's many years of service and his commitment to our community, and it is appreciated that we recognize his dedication to the village. It's from Victoria Garrity, Mayor of the Village of Ossining, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, recognize Mark Malone for his service and urge all our residents and merchants to join us in honoring him. So I, for one, am thrilled, and I appreciate, and I know my board does too, and I'm sure George does, because you've been working with George the longest, all that you have given, all the good information that you've given us, and legal advice. So thank you very much for your service, sir. And that will end our meeting for December 2017. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mark.
you very much.